I admittedly am not the retirement expert in the room. My colleague Aaliyah Wong is, and she also works with the Chamber. I live in the gig economy space, so our efforts or our project within the Chamber focuses on emerging tech, which range from drones to autonomous vehicles, but we recently launched a new economy, what we're calling a new economy working group in February, and it has two lines of work. One is to prepare the American workforce for the 21st century, and the second is recognizing the changing nature of work, modernizing the benefit structure. So those numbers were quite alarming. Thanks for that analysis. And it just further reiterates that there is a need to modernize the benefit structure. And that's particularly true when it comes to retirement savings. And I think the premise we're working from is there's a cost to doing nothing. And based on that previous presentation, it could be to the tune of $2.2 trillion. So there's a sense of urgency around this issue. When we talk about reforming the benefit structure, though, and this gets to the point of the complexity of the issue when you're talking about the gig economy, people talk about it in different ways. But just to level set for folks in the room, our approach is not only dealing with those folks who are in the gig economy, but also taking into account sole proprietors, micro businesses, freelance workers, people that I would classify as independents. And when we talk about reforming the benefit structure, we're not talking about replacing the existing employee-employer relationship because it's working for a lot of people, and I'll talk more about that in a second. One of the things that we focus on within our working group, too, is just being a fierce advocate for more data in this space. To your point, the BLS survey had not been done until since 2005, and we're anxious to see the results of the survey that'll be released in a month or two. But we also think there's a need to just contribute or to continue to pound the drum for more data in this space, because you can't. The more data we have, obviously, the more evidence-based our decisions will be made. So we can't just assume certain things. It would behoove all of us to advocate for continued data. So that's another avenue of work that we work at the Chamber. And so I'll just talk to you a little bit about my experience and my conversations with the members that we work with in our new economy work, who are primarily these platforms in this space, who are trying to understand, one, this changing nature of work, but some of whom are traditional W-2 employer-employer relationships and might be considering entering into this 1099 gig economy workspace. And what we've seen and what we've heard is that there is an absolute desire to get at this problem from the platform space. They are, and they don't need to. I mean, to be honest, they don't need to talk about retirement savings for the people who are using their platforms, but they care about it because, one, they want to incentivize people to use their platform. They want that opportunity or that experience to be positive, but they recognize this growing problem. I mean, after that presentation, it'd almost be negligent not to have this conversation. But I'd say the greatest obstacle for them right now is just the existing labor laws. So there's a risk that's associated with them engaging in this space. And while that's not the focus of this panel, it needs to be noted because you've got these platforms who have this desire to help the people who are using the platform, and then you've got the desire from the people who are actually using the platform to utilize the opportunities that the platforms provide. So because of these outdated labor laws, our members are hesitant to push the envelope when it comes to testing creative ideas or pilots in this space. But I will just walk through briefly a company that we work with, EBRI. Some of you might have heard of it, and what they've done in this space and the approach that they are taking generally. I won't get into specifics. I'll tee that up for Kendra, who we have the privilege of working with pretty regularly. But so I'm pretty sure folks are familiar with EBRI, but they partnered with a company called Betterment. How many people are familiar with Betterment? Is there anyone from Betterment here? Okay. Well, so they're an online financial advisor, essentially. So they partnered with them and afforded their drivers the opportunity to save a percentage of their earnings and then also have access to these financial advisors, not just on retirement savings, but also on a host of other things. The first year of that partnership is free for the drivers, and then the second year is offered at a discounted rate. Since Uber has been partnering with Betterment, they've seen a $3.7 million savings throughout this partnership, which roughly translates to around $2,000 per driver who is participating in the program. That said, Uber is extremely limited in going any further or continuing to push the envelope because of the issues that I raised. Mostly around reclassification risk. They really can't do anything more than just provide a third-party integration through their app. So when we're thinking about when we're working with Uber and also other companies within the gig economy, I would say we're at a phase right now where we're designing principles because it is very complex. But what are the principles that we can use to guide us through this conversation? And so I'll briefly walk you through some of the ones that I know Uber's thinking about, but it's also relevant for a lot of the other member companies that we're working with. So any solution that we think of has to be universal. Every worker should have the opportunity to build financial security by participating in a private retirement system. It has to be portable. So again, we're dealing with a more mobile workforce, and the benefits that you receive should not be determined by the place where you are. They should be transferable, and there should be an ease of use. They should be pooled and professionally managed. So most workers, myself included, are not investment experts, and so the research indicates that people are frequently overwhelmed by the complexity of these models, and then they experience decision paralysis. It has to be fair. So a successful retirement system should be fair to participating workers. The structure should ensure that benefits of the system are widely distributed and not concentrated among those, for example, who are just high income earners. And finally, and this is something that I covered, it needs to be minimally disruptive. So you have a system that is based on decades of work. It's working for a lot of people, and I know at the Chamber we are focused on making sure that whatever solution we have is complementing and integrated into the current system, and we're taking the things that work well, and then we're moving those into we're taking the things that work well and then creating additional alternatives for this new workforce. So if I had to summarize the things that we need in this space, and this is to tee up Kendra, is we obviously need more data, and so I think I reiterated that in my comments. It's something that will guide our conversations going forward. We need to provide some sort of safe harbor for these platforms that are again, have this desire to do what's to help the people who are using their platforms and are moving in and out of this gig economy. And then we have to figure out the appropriate role for government, for the private sector, and for individuals. This can't just be something that the government does. There's a role for everyone in that equation, and it's important that there's an appropriate balance to that end. And with that, if you don't mind, I'll tee up Kendra to talk about the specifics and all the great work she's doing on Senate Help.
I feel like I've been